There we go. All right. Here we go with the new ShortFiles. Episode, I don't know. I'll figure it out. This is 16. But what we're going to talk about today is just reading the there goes, yeah, sit up there. There we go. Reading. So we're going to talk about where we're at as a culture when it comes to reading and what reading actually means now. And one of the interesting things about our culture in the social media age is that the idea of literacy has completely changed. Used to, literacy meant being able to read. So if you were literate, you could read. You could see what was on the page, and it, to some extent, it had some connection to comprehension, right? But in this day and age, literacy has morphed into a more comprehensive, focused ideal. It's one thing to be able to read, it's another thing to understand at multiple levels what the text is actually saying. Bring this up because in my classes, and for those of you who don't know, I am associate professor of English. In my classes, I'm running into a lot of comprehension problems, and I'm running into trouble trying to teach these kids how to read rhetorically, how to get the message that the author is trying to state. And a lot of that has to do with social media and the problems that we run into with social media. And a lot of it has to do with Common Core, and a lot of it has to do with the media that we have, news media specifically, between the newspapers like the New York Times, Washington Post, Tribune, the LA Times, but then also the broadcast media like CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, all those. So when you look at reading comprehension, it has been politicized greatly, largely thanks to whatever you want to call it. Call it the critical school, the theory school, postmodernism school, woke culture, if you want to call it the woke culture. There's all kinds of reasons for what I see as the degrading and deconstruction of our ability to read and comprehend. We are being taught specific lenses to look at a text through. And so one of the things that I have a real problem with is the fact that people refuse, the general public in general refuse to attempt to get out of that binary structure of how to understand a text. And not everything is left right. I mean, And I see this in the reason why I bring this up is the Oliver Anthony thing. He clearly stated multiple times that he's politically down the middle, and yet everyone keeps focusing on the lyrics and attempting to create a binary dialogue based on these lyrics and they try to make it left versus right. And if you step back with an objective point of view, which is really hard in this very, very secular world, if you step back and look at it in terms of a truly neutral stance, you can see that he is pointing out universal problems that affect a large swath of people that neither lean left nor right, and there are no overtly left or right positions that he is promoting in this particular song. And there's a lot of arguments in our culture right now that he is in certain. If you put a certain spin to it, he is talking in a binary language, and he's not. And we refuse as a culture to break that habit of looking at it as, okay, well, what is he saying that I agree with, and does it outweigh what he's saying, what I don't agree with, And one of the big things, and I'll take the example that the left is saying about the line where he says, we have people on the streets who can't get nothing to eat, and the obese milk and welfare, right? And when you look at, and he actually broke down that line and explained it, and explained how the system is broken to a point where the welfare system is not helping people, it's actually keeping them trapped in that system. It's not designed to actually get people out of what they are trapped in. And so when you see it as a system that's broken and not really helping anybody, that's not a left or right issue. That is an issue that affects everybody on both political sides. And so I bring that up because if we were taught correctly how to read, then I believe that song would actually have even more impact than it does. The problem is that you have highly educated, highly intellectual individuals at the core of both parties, both the Republicans and the Democrats in this country. And they were taught by professors like me how to create rhetorical messages specifically designed to continue to alienate, right? And it benefits both parties to keep an alienation game going. And this narrative that it's left versus right? So if you continue to do that, you continue to get elected. There's an old adage that, if you were to actually solve all the social problems that we have, we wouldn't need politicians anymore. So a lot of the times you have to wonder, it's not a conspiracy, but you have to wonder how much of this are they dragging out so they can keep getting reelected, right? And when you have things like that, or thoughts or ideas like that, then it's really easy to see how they can take and manipulate the messages from both their side and the opposition, and create sustainable narratives that keep them in office. So things like if you redesign the welfare system, millions of Americans are going to starve. That's the Democrats' argument. The Republican side is, if we don't fix welfare, we're going to keep just bleeding money to people who don't deserve it, right? And so you have these two arguments, and nobody's actually going towards the middle and saying, well, look, there's going to be some pain. You're never going to be able to build the actual perfect system, but we can build a better system, and put in specific safety protocols. I don't want to call them safety protocols, but specific protocols that will keep the abuse of the system down to a much lower minimum than what we're seeing currently. Because there are people in this country that need the welfare system. And they actually, when they get into the welfare system, they work really, really hard to get out of it once they get into it. We do have that population of people in this country, and we're punishing them, or we're going to, if you look at it from one political standpoint, we would be punishing them because of a few bad apples, right? But then on the flip side of that, if we don't do something about this system soon, we're going to end up with a continued draining of the system. People are going to be trapped in the system. The system is built in a way that it keeps them trapped, as Oliver Anthony pointed out. So I said all that to say that I keep getting sidetracked. I said all that to say this, that if we change how we read, if we start teaching our population, our current population, how to actually read. And what I mean by that is understanding how the text is working to create and sustain binary narratives. If we see that, then people will be able to start stepping back and making their own decisions. There's an app. That's out that grades news articles based on whether they're left, middle, or right? How much bias each article has. And so it's not that our culture hasn't figured this out. We have figured out that, there's a serious problem. And Zuckerberg has not truly fixed the problem with, say, Facebook and Instagram. And of course, Google has not fixed the problem with YouTube. Where it is really easy for the algorithm to immediately silo you into a degree of thought. God, I cannot think of the word. I'm having trouble wording this morning. Thought reinforcement. There you go. Reinforcement of your own beliefs, right? The algorithms are still built to do this. So we look at all this. It's more important now to learn how to read critically and understand what these authors are doing rhetorically with their messages, so we can pick out the bias and look at the story itself. And so I think that's where we need, if we want to fix the mess that we're in, it's going to take a lot of different things. But I think one of the key starting points is looking at how we're actually teaching reading, teaching people how to read, not just kids, but the general public. Because if we don't start changing how people are viewing the world around them through this lens of this fictional narrative that this entire country is embroiled in a never-ending racial fight over hatred and bigotry and all this, which is it there? Absolutely, it's there. Is it as prominent as the media would have you believe? No. It takes one trip to the grocery store to see that 80% of what the news tells us is bullshit. Just one trip to a grocery store, any grocery store, right? And you'll see firsthand that the majority of what we're hearing is nonsense. Because you see people, I mean, hell, just look at, look at people on the road. I mean, if racism is such a problem, I think we would have a lot more road rage than we have. And yes, road rage has ticked up. And why has road rage ticked up? Because people on social media have amplified this idea that road rage is a problem, right? And so all of a sudden we're catching it more. I think a lot of the things that we're seeing as far as, the inhumane actions of other people, the reason why we're seeing it more is because it's being filmed more. And so we're seeing it more so through the lens of, hey, you do realize this country is like more than 2,000 miles wide, right? I mean, that's a lot of land. And for the longest time, if you lived in the South, you were only privy to a lot of things that happened in the South. If you lived in the Northeast, you were only privy to a lot of the things that happened in the Northeast and out West, and et cetera, right? Because it goes community, and then principality, and then, or not principality, but community goes out to your local community, goes out to your municipality. There we go. That then goes out to your region, your state, and then your region. When you see that, when you see it that way, and you understand it that way, the news was being fed that way. And so a lot of the things that we were seeing meant more to us. Now with social media, you're seeing national and international things on a daily basis. And of course, when you've got this many, 330 plus million people in this country, it's a lot of freaking people. You're going to see a lot more instances on social media now that everybody's connected to the same thing. And I mean everybody, all 330 million of us, right? So obviously there's going to appear to be an uptick, but the problem is that the data from both the FBI and the Department of Defense shows the exact opposite. Crime has not skyrocketed. Crime has gone down since the 90s when it peaked, right? When you look at instances of race, right? People in different polls that have been done by, Pew and the one that starts with a G, and I'm just, you see that people are not as racially conscious as the media would have you believe. They're just not. But it seems like we're in this epoch of white supremacy, because the white supremacists have got on the internet and they're broadcasting their shit over all 2,000 miles of the U.S. and all 330 million people of us, 30 plus, have access to these sons of bitches. And so it appears that it is way more worse than it actually is. And of course, the news media hooks into it because those kind of stories sell copy, and those stories keep you watching. I teach my students, if you pay attention to cable news hosts, when they go to a commercial break, they always hook you by saying something along the lines of, when we come back, is the apocalypse headed our way? Okay, that right there, that statement, is enough to scare you into watching. But anybody who has half a brain can figure out, if they just finish the A block, which is the first quarter hour, and they're talking about the apocalypse, if it's not in the A block, it's not that important. But we keep watching because they use that language, and of course we're going to keep watching. As long as we keep watching, they win, and they get the eyeballs, and they get to sell more ad revenue, and they get to make more money, and that's what it's all about, right? Anyway, I've totally gone off. Reading is muy importante. We need to teach the American public how to fucking read. As long as they know how to read and know how to read rhetorically, where they can pick out the bias and get rid of it, we're good. What the hell? Okay, so I just saw like 30 students from Ragsdale running into our parking lot with a log. I swear to God, that is the weirdest shit I've ever seen in my life. And they're still carrying the log. And somehow I've got to get around these kids. They've got multiple logs. Oh, no, wait. These are our students. These are fire students. These are our EMT guys. Okay. They were carrying logs. It was fucking surreal. Okay. All right, so I am at work, so that's it for this Short Files. If you like what you saw, click subscribe, ring bells, all that good shit. If you're watching this on Substack, please subscribe to the Substack. Right now, everything is free. I do have a paywall, but I'm doing everything for free right now. We'll worry about the paywall more in general later once I get more subscribers. So click like and subscribe and bells and all that good stuff. BB out.